Okay, so 2 months ago, I posted this video and it was the 5 things I wish I knew before moving to Switzerland. People came at me in the comments. They were like, you hate it there. You're so unhappy. Why are you living there? Go back to America. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute, guys. We just bought a house here. We're living here. We love living in Switzerland. So today I'm gonna do the 8 reasons why I love living in Geneva, Switzerland. That is the theme song of The Daily. That is how I would start every morning in New York. I would put on The Daily and I would commute to work. It was not until I moved here that I realized while it is amazing to know about what's going on, to be informed, this constant obsession with understanding the political landscape of everything that's happening, forming an opinion about it, that is exhausting. I just remember being in the US and being in New York, feeling so overwhelmed by all the problems the country were facing. I felt like I had to know about all of them. I had to stay on top of all of this. I needed to have an opinion about it. And since I have lived here in Switzerland, I have taken a total media and news diet. I follow some local Swiss news. I read swissinfo.com, where there are very short little articles. And what this gives me is absolute peace of mind. I no longer feel this constant kind of anxiety about the state of affairs of the country that I'm living in. In Switzerland, the political landscape is completely different. Politics does not take up this huge mind share from people. It's not something that people are discussing at every dinner conversation. It's not something that people feel so enraged by that they need to put signs up in their yard. Being able to take a step back from all of the events in the news cycle has just been so healthy for my mental health. I just feel more agency to live my life in peace. And I understand that this is a huge privilege. For the most part, there isn't anything super dangerous or crazy happening that can affect my day-to-day life. Whereas in the US, your livelihood and safety in the country is at risk. The stakes are so much higher, and that's why it's so important for you to stay informed and to be on top of things and to know what's going on. And that's sort of the way it is in America, but I have just enjoyed living in a place where things are working, things are peaceful, things are calm, and it's just sort of a slower, steadier, lower volume pace of life. So the second reason why I love living here in Switzerland is the safety. Everyone, when they talk about Switzerland, they talk about how safe it is. But for me, I have 3 young kids. The safety of my kids is the number one thing that keeps me up at night. When we were living in New York, we lived in different places in the city, but we spent a lot of time in Brooklyn, and our last apartment, we were living in Bed-Stuy. There was also an instance where about a block and a half from us, there was a shooting. I remember I was pregnant. I felt so uncomfortable being pregnant, having to commute and go to work that day and like walk past the crime scene that was a block from our house. I think that when you live in New York City, you become so desensitized to dangerous situations that I don't think is normal or necessarily a healthy acceptance of such things. Here, I have never felt more calm about the safety of my kids. There are kids as young as 9 and 10 years old that are walking to school by themselves, that are taking the bus by themselves. The schools are open. Kids freely come in and out of the school because they have to leave at 11:30 for lunch. There are no metal detectors. There's no like crazy gates and doors that you have to go through. It's an open environment that people can come and go. I've never felt unsafe being in a parking garage at 10 o'clock at night or even midnight here in Geneva. I would never do this in New York. I would never like go into a dark, isolated parking lot in New York City after it got dark. Even taking public transportation, the subway in New York, it can be a place where scary things can happen. Here, I take my kids on the bus, no problem. My parents who are in their 60s, their later 60s, they take our kids on the bus, no problem. I can take a walk with my kids on the street and they can be a block and a half in front of me. And I don't worry something's gonna happen. I feel comfortable having my kids go somewhere with another parent because I don't worry about something unforeseen happening. And this safety, it allows me to relax and to enjoy more with our kids. Safety for kids is such a high reason for why we chose to live here. The third thing in these next few things are more about the culture. The first is there is just less of a capitalistic consumerism culture. Now, I know I have complained in the past about how there is no Amazon in Switzerland, and I get annoyed by how hard it is to buy things. That is true, but the counterpoint to that is it's really nice to live in a place where you don't feel this pressure to be buying things or upgrading things or feeling like you always need new things. My kids are 6, 4, and 2. They never come home saying, oh, so-and-so has this and I need the latest this and this whatever thing is like the thing all kids have. And I love this because we operate in our household on a system of hand-me-downs. I really appreciate that Black Friday comes and goes like nothing happens. Like, yes, you see some stores, they have some promotions, like there will be some signs, but it's not in your face. Do people buy things here? Yes. Do people buy nice things here? Yes. You see a lot of nice cars in Geneva. There isn't the same pressure. There isn't the same level of everybody has something and you feel like you need to have it. You know, the other thing is it is harder to buy things here. If we buy something from Amazon Germany or Galaxus, which is the Swiss equivalent of Amazon here, there's like a spending threshold that you have to get to in order to get free shipping. And this is a big deterrent for me. I don't just come across a minor inconvenience in my life, think, oh, I really need to buy this, then go to my computer, then buy it for free shipping, and then it arrives to my house that day. That doesn't happen. What happens is I will encounter a minor inconvenience and I will think, oh, maybe our life would be easier if we had this thing. I will put it into a shopping cart, but because I haven't reached the free shipping limit, I will just wait until I encounter other inconveniences so that I can hit the $50 or whatever limit. Then if enough inconveniences accumulate over time, this could be 2 or 3 months, and then I will review, are these things that I truly need? And then if I still have enough items that qualify for free shipping, then I will purchase it. And it just forces you to be more thoughtful about what you buy. The next thing, again, it's a culture thing. Maybe this is very, very specific to New York, but in New York, I just felt like everybody operated on busy culture. If you ask somebody how they were, they'd be like, I'm great, but I'm so busy. So you got like a badge for being busy. It was good to be busy. If you wanted to make plans with somebody, you would have to be like, hey, 3 weekends from now, do you want to get brunch? Or 3 weekends from now, do you want to get a dinner? Made it like so much harder actually to see people because everybody was busy and everybody was like doing stuff. And the experience that I've had here is there are just more moments. There's more space for spontaneous connection. It's more of a village feel. We'll run into people at the park or at the grocery store, and then we'll say, hey, this weekend, are you doing anything on Sunday afternoon? You want to just meet at the park? And they'll be like, yeah, let's do it. You feel more in community. and people aren't so like obsessed necessarily with their agendas and with their plans, and everything has to be pre-scheduled. I'm not saying people aren't busy here. They are, and they're working, and when you have kids and you're balancing your kid's schedule and your work schedule, of course it gets busy, but it just doesn't feel like it needs to take as much effort. I have appreciated this. It has helped our assimilation here because we are around, we're available, and we're able to make connections with people. The next thing is very specific to Geneva. So this is not all across Switzerland. This is such an international city, and there's such a culture of multiculturalism. Of course, like when you live in New York, is it the melting pot of the US? Yes. Do you see people of all different shapes, sizes, backgrounds, beliefs? Yes. But how often are you like interacting with those people? You know, like how often do those people become your closest friends? I found that in New York, a lot of my friends had very similar backgrounds to me. We studied similar things. We all worked in similar places, and you kind of form these bubbles. Most families that we meet here, they are from two different countries. Like the mom will be German and the dad will be Swiss, or the mom will be French and Italian and the dad will be German, or the dad will come from Turkey and the mom will be American, or the mom will be Chinese and the dad will be from the Czech Republic. So many people that you meet they have like these dual culture households. It's very common to go to a birthday party here and to hear happy birthday sung in 3 different languages. Our kids are getting exposed not only to this culture here in Switzerland, and they're learning French, but they're also learning German in school, and they're also interacting with all these kids that speak other languages at home as their primary language, and thus they are also getting a little window into a different culture and a different family life. And I think that that's really amazing, and it's such a special place in the world. It really feels more like a melting pot here. I love that about being here. Okay, so the next is the specific location of Geneva. When you're in Europe, everything is just more condensed. There are just so many places that are within reach travel-wise. For us to go to Paris, it's a 3-hour train ride. For us to go to Milan, it's like a 3.5-hour drive. We can take a 45-minute flight and be in the south of France, be in Nice. We drove 5 hours and we were in Barolo, a beautiful like wine region in Italy. It's so easy for us to get to different places in Europe. And even it's easier to get to places in other parts of the world. Like it's a shorter flight to Asia, and it's easier to go to Africa. It's only a 6-hour plane ride to Dubai. It's only, I think, a 4-hour plane ride to Tenerife, which is in the Canary Islands, the islands off the coast of Northern Africa. I think it's just amazing that you have all of these diverse locations to choose from to travel to. Okay, my next reason is the cost of living for the quality of the goods and services that you're receiving. I know that there have been so many videos of people talking about how expensive it is to live in Switzerland, and especially Geneva. And that is true. Geneva is a very expensive place to live. However, in comparison to New York City, I think New York City is actually more expensive than Geneva. And I think that when you compare the cost of what you're paying for and then looking at what you get, the quality of whatever it is just gonna be higher here. Let me first give you an example. The 2 biggest budget lines in our budget has always been our house and then our childcare. In Geneva, just like in New York and in other places in the US, if you have to put 20% down on a house, it's very, very expensive because the cost of housing is very high. So that remains the same, but the difference is that the interest rates here are so low. Our interest rate is 1.33, that then the monthly payment that you're making on your house, ours is 3 or 4 times lower than it would be in the US for a similarly priced house. This is huge. This is like a huge savings that we get every month by choosing to have bought a house here. The second biggest line item for us is childcare. It is very expensive here but the price per month for daycare, for example, is about comparable to what it is in New York City. But for our youngest one, she's in a room with 12 kids, and there's usually around 3 adults in the room. And I think in New York, at most, you're maybe having 2 adults to a room of 12 to 15 kids. Here, our kids are in a bilingual Montessori school. The cost of that school is probably half of what it would be compared to a private school of a similar type in New York City. Those cost savings make a huge difference to us. Other things are maybe equivalent, but you get better quality here as well, like groceries. I think groceries here are probably similar to the cost in New York, but the standards by which they are growing, cattle and growing vegetables, it's not the same as it is in the US. Even if you buy non-bio, just regular beef here, you know that the standard and the quality of that beef is going to be higher than it is in the US because it's not pumped with hormones and it's not, the cows are all free range here. And it's the same for like other food and produce. Everything here is usually grown here local in Switzerland. Not necessarily paying more just because it's local, or it's coming from France, or it's coming from nearby Spain. Like the bulk of our groceries are usually from those 3 countries. And in the US, you pay such a premium to get local produce from a farm or to do a co-op. The produce is being shipped from California, from South America, from all over the world. So the quality is definitely not the same. And then the very last, but probably the most important reason for why we decided to kind of settle here in Switzerland is the community of friends that we've been able to build here. I see so many comments from people talking about how it's so hard to make friends in Switzerland, that Swiss people are cold or hard to penetrate into Swiss circles. And we've just had such an opposite experience that I thought it was important to share. Maybe we're an anomaly because we do have young kids here. I do think it's easier for you to make friends when you have young kids here. We met a lot of our closest friends through our local creche. Without these people, our life would be so much harder. As an example, we had a medical emergency with our youngest daughter, and my husband and I both needed to be at the hospital with her. Luckily, we had 2 families that we could call that live really close to us to see if one of them would be available to come and stay with our other daughters. And I have found that in Geneva in particular, while yes, there are Swiss people who kind of stick with their own circle of friends that they've had since growing up, there are also a lot of Swiss people who maybe grew up in Geneva and then left for a period of time. Maybe they studied abroad, or maybe they worked abroad and then they decided to come back here and raise their families here. That while they're still Swiss, they still keep a very international mindset and they're not so closed. That's a great community of people that we've been lucky enough to make friends with. Without the relationships and the friends that we have made here, I don't think that we would have been as committed to staying here. I love that our kids are growing up with these other families. My oldest one, she has friends from when she was 3 that she met in daycare, and I think it's so special that she has these friends that she made from such a young age. I think that while it would be possible to replicate somewhere else in the US, it would feel like we would be starting over. I honestly don't know what it's like to have to make friends when you're, in your 40s and you have kids in the US, because a lot of our friends in the US or in New York would be friends that we've had from when we were younger. So I can't speak to what that experience would be like, but our experience here making friends has just really been not the experience that most people say. Okay, so that's it. Those are my 8 reasons for why we decided to live in Switzerland and why I love living in Switzerland. And I hope that this gives you a little bit of insight into what it's like to live in Switzerland as an American expat.